Hello friends and neighbors, time to wrap things up for There's a Boy in the Girl's Bathroom by Louis Sachar. Let's look at chapter 31 to the end. Now we haven't talked a lot about Carla thus far because Carla's kind of the voice of wisdom in this story. She's not really a developing character so much as she's the one kind of guiding the developing character. She's the Dumbledore. But now I do want to talk about Carla a little bit in reference to the Organization of Concerned Parents, which we hear about first in chapter 31. Okay, so we hear about this organization from Bradley's mother, who gets a letter saying they're going to be discussing the counselor and options for her and all that sort of thing. But the letter specifically says that they are only looking for people to come that have complaints about the counselor. And so Bradley's mother doesn't go because Bradley doesn't have any complaints, Bradley's mother doesn't have any complaints, so they don't go to the meeting. The meeting is only for people who have complaints, which is really stupid. Oh my god, this pisses me off so much. Here we have a meeting to discuss this counselor that basically guarantees that the only people who are going to show up to the meeting are people that have negative things to say about it. People that have not benefited from the counselor's help. Probably people who didn't want to send their kid to a counselor, who never wanted to have a counselor in the first place, and who just don't know how she works, and they don't see the good that she's doing because their kids are not benefiting from it. And it basically guarantees they're not going to get any positive voices in that meeting. If Bradley's mother had gone to the meeting and she had said, "I'm Bradley Chalker's mother. You all know Bradley Chalkers. He's notoriously bad. He's doing his homework now, he's reading, he's trying to be a better person, all because of this counselor. If you fire her, you are idiots." They might have actually listened and said, "Bradley Chalkers? Bradley Chalkers? Really? Huh. Maybe she does know what she's doing." Unlikely, but it's possible. And then we have the actual meeting and I do like that they include the actual meeting where they are talking about Carla's future and they're basically being giant squids of anger. I've actually labeled that chapter the Giant Squid of Anger meeting. Because there's no reason, there's no logic, it's completely ridiculous, and yet it's unbelievably effective. That chapter pisses me off so much, but to be fair, that's what it's supposed to do. And I do like the kind of role reversal we see with Carla in that chapter. That's really the only chapter where we see things from Carla's point of view. We see Carla from the perspective of Bradley and Jeff and Colleen and Bradley's mother, but we never actually really get inside of her head and find out what she's going through. And I also like the perspective switch because up to this point, Carla has always been in charge. She has been the person guiding, she has been the person with the wisdom and the experience and the one who knows what she's doing, and now we see her sitting in this little tiny chair and being yelled at by all of these grown-ups. And of course she loses her job as the counselor largely because of this meeting and because of her unorthodox teaching methods and But on to other things. Let's talk about Jeff and Bradley. So at the very beginning of this section, Jeff and Bradley have kind of their final showdown. Bradley is reading the book, which he believes is magic, and he believes is responsible for all the good things that are happening to him. The teachers are starting to turn on him. The librarian who had previously told Bradley off and kind of banned him from checking out any book from the library ever actually complimented him and said, "Oh, you're reading. Good job, Bradley. Well done." And the teachers are really starting to turn on him, but he thinks that the goodness is coming from the magic book and not from anything that he's doing. So Jeff and his friends come along, and at first their appearance is more of a curiosity. I mean, they're picking on him, but it's not the bullying that it was before. They're honestly, I think, curious that Bradley Chalkers is reading. Bradley Chalkers doesn't read. What book could be so engrossing that it's getting Bradley Chalkers to read? They're picking on him because they're still 5th grade boys and they still don't like him, but I think they're genuinely curious about what's going on here? But this still leads to the showdown between Jeff and Brad. The final fight, which never actually happens because neither one of them wants it to happen. And I like that what saves Bradley is the hi reflex that Jeff still has. Bradley says hi. That's how he saves himself. He says hi, Jeff says hi back, and they start talking. That's all it is. They just start talking. There's never an I'm sorry too, hugs. There's none of that because they're 5th grade boys. So it's a weird kind of reconciliation, but they're 5th grade boys. And I do want to talk a little bit about the character of Andy. Andy's an interesting character. He's very, very minor. He's barely mentioned, but the few moments that he does have are really pretty interesting. Andy is described early in the story as a nice kid, and we see him also early on when Bradley is hiding, and he thinks that Andy sees him, but he doesn't do anything. He just keeps going. And now we see Andy is really a nice kid, and I think Andy in a way, felt kind of bad for Bradley. And I think the other kids kind of felt bad for Bradley too, even though they really, really didn't like him. And so at this point, when Jeff and Brad are having their fight and the other guys are egging them on, Andy says, I'll hold your book, Bradley. You know, and he's not going to do anything with it. He's not going to throw it in the mud or do anything mean. He honestly just, I'll hold your book until you're done. You know, you got to do this. It's fine. I'll hold your book for you. And Andy is the one who reaches out to Bradley and says, do you want to play basketball with us after he and Jeff have had their reconciliation? Andy, I think, is kind of, in a way, in charge of the group. He's the one that holds the basketball. I think he's the one that kind of organizes the basketball games. And I think the other boys kind of take his lead in a lot of ways. But anyway, back to Bradley and Jeff. Bradley is now a part of the group. The two basketball teams are complete. Bradley can't play basketball to save his life, but the other boys are understanding, and they'll say, okay, we'll teach you how to play basketball. We'll help you along. It's okay. So now it's not just the teachers who are starting to see Bradley as a good person. It's now the other students who are starting to see him that way as well. As we will also see, it crosses over to the girls in the next couple of chapters. So Jeff is kind of freaked out by everything that's happening here. Things are getting a little bit too weird. He and Bradley are friends, but he's also friends with all the other guys, and they're playing basketball together, and it's just really weird. And then to compound the weirdness, while he is in the bathroom washing up, Colleen becomes the third character to walk into the wrong bathroom. She walks into the boys' bathroom looking for him and then runs back out. And this is just too much for Jeff to handle, and he has to go talk to somebody, and of course he goes back to Carla. And at that point, he and Colleen kind of have it out and address each other with more than just hi, that sort of thing, and Colleen invites Jeff to his birthday party. But Colleen can't just invite Jeff. She has to invite some other boy in addition, because she can't have Jeff be the only boy, and she kind of says, gonna have to invite Bradley. So Colleen kind of has a minor transformation, because she's the first one of the girls, really, to see Bradley as a better person. So she invites Bradley. Bradley says yes. Her friends can't believe it, but they accept it eventually. And Bradley now is going to this birthday party. Except he hasn't been to a birthday party in a really long time, and so he is freaking terrified of this birthday party. But now that he's friends with Jeff again, he can say to Jeff, I don't know what to do. I haven't been to a birthday party for a long time. Please help me. Meanwhile, he's continuing to try to be a good kid. He finishes Carla's book, and he writes a wonderful book report about it, and then he finds out that Carla is leaving. And the thing about Bradley is that he is still under the impression that all the good things that are happening in his life are temporary. The book is responsible for them, Carla is responsible for them, and he doesn't recognize that the goodness is coming from himself. So he naturally thinks that if she leaves, everything good that has happened to him, his invite to the birthday party, his friendship with Jeff, playing basketball, all of these wonderful things that are happening to him now, they're all going to disappear and things are going to go back to the way they were. And unlike the beginning of the book, he doesn't want that anymore. And so he reacts by ripping up the book report and throwing it away and running away from Carla, and Carla then becomes the fourth and final character to cross into the wrong bathroom, going into the boys' bathroom to comfort Bradley. And one of the most heartbreaking things about this section of the book is just how much Bradley comes to hate Carla at this point. He has all this anger, he doesn't know what to do with it, and he thinks that by hating Carla, he can somehow blame her for all the good things that are bound to happen in his life. But in the end, he can't do it. He can't hate Carla, and he finally says, no, I have to go see her, but he misses her. He misses her by that much. And that really is a heartbreaking section of the novel where Bradley comes to the realization that he missed out on saying goodbye to Carla and on having one last meeting with her. Also in this section, Bradley finally gets a gold star because Carla gave the teacher his ripped up book report and she read it and she liked it and she gave him an A and she gave him a gold star. Yay, gold star! So life goes on and Bradley now has to face this basically final test of his goodness, the birthday party, alone. I mean, not completely alone, but without the guidance of Carla. Bradley's journey is actually very, very similar to the hero's journey. Specifically, he has a wise counselor who disappears just before her final test, just like most wise voices of wisdom do in the hero's journey. So Bradley's freaking out about this birthday party, and Jeff is trying to give him some last-minute pointers and trying to help him out as best that he can, and Bradley goes to the birthday party, and one of the things that I love about this birthday party is the progression of the girls' attitudes toward Bradley. At first, when Colleen tells them that she has invited boys, and moreover she has invited Bradley Chalkers, they of course freak out, because they still see Bradley as a monster and a bully and a bad person. So they freak out, they're terrified, not just of Bradley, but of the boys in general. They are terrified of this, and I love the fact that when Colleen's two best friends walk in and they're like, oh, Bradley Chalkers is coming, and everyone else is freaked out, and they're like, yeah, we know. That's old news, guys. But as Bradley comes and as he participates in the birthday party, their attitude toward him changes because they don't see him as a monster anymore. They see him as a a new baby, somebody, a child learning something new. And so they become very protective of him. And I love that. They get to the point where they want to help him, they want to protect them, they want to guide him along the way. They're actually fighting over each other to help tell him, this is what we're doing now, this is how this works, and helping to teach him and move him along in the birthday party. And Bradley doesn't get everything right. He messes up a couple of times. He signs his birthday card with Love Bradley, which of course the girls give him a hard time for, and I love the fact that it's Karen, the quiet one, who tells them off for it. But he gets through it, and he has a wonderful time, and he wins the game thing that they do, and he becomes a better person for it. And this is the point where we know that Bradley's going to be okay. We know it, and Bradley knows it. Bradley's going to be okay. The bad things in his life aren't going to come back. The good things in his life aren't going to disappear. He's going to continue to become a better person, and he's going to be alright even though Carla isn't around anymore. And so he writes to Carla, he tells her everything that happened, he basically indicates to her, I'm going to be fine, and then he gives away Ronnie. He gives away the animal that is representative of his goodness. He gives away that which is closest to him, that which is most dear to him. He gives it to the person who is most dear to him. And of course, what else does the book end with but with that smile-frown combination, but now it means something completely different than it did at the beginning of the novel. Where at the beginning of the book it meant, I don't know whether I'm happy or sad, I'm pretending that I'm happy, but I'm actually probably not. Now it means, I'm really sad about this, but at the same time, I'm kind of satisfied. And that is There's a Boy in the Girl's Bathroom. I still love this book. It's still one of my ultimate recommendations. It's hilarious, it's heart-wrenching at times, and it's just a really, really good book with a great message about seeing the good in everybody, even if they don't see it in themselves. Once again, if you have any other insights to offer on There's a Boy in the Girl's Bathroom, either in the last part or in the entire book, please leave them as a comment or as a video response. And the next book we're going to be looking at in the Ultimate, I'm actually going to get the book. The next book we'll be reading in the Ultimate Recommendation Book Club is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. The book is split into 2 parts. I think we'll split this book into 4 parts ultimately, so we will start with the first, what I have is the first 50 pages, the first 5 chapters, chapter 1 through chapter 5. We will start with that section and then go from there. So until next time, happy reading.
We need your help.